moving through. Even the south could see some rain for a time, but by the end of the night, the rain is focused across western Scotland, northwest England, Northern Ireland. And with the cloud and the breeze picking up, temperatures staying at 12 to 14 Celsius typically. But there will be some early morning sunshine across southern parts of England, into the Midlands and East Anglia. However, for Scotland, it is a dreary start to the day. A lot of clouds, some low cloud covering the hills and coasts to the west, and outbreaks of persistent rain over western hills. I think drier towards the east and northeast, but largely cloudy. Northern Ireland, likewise, a lot of cloud. Northwest England seeing the damp weather set in firmly during the morning. North Wales similar, but further south across Wales, brighter skies and mostly dry. 1 or 2 spots of rain possible for the southwest of England, but really it's a north-south split by the afternoon, with sunny spells breaking through across southern parts of the UK, albeit with 1 or 2 light showers here and there. Variable amounts of cloud, but thicker cloud and increasingly heavy rain pushing into northwestern parts of the UK, particularly for higher parts of western Scotland. Temperatures here held back as a result, but a warm day in the south, with temperatures reaching the mid or even high 20s in places. Then on Friday night, it's a warm night for many of us, with a lot of cloud cover, continuing to rain in western Scotland. High pressure then builds in from the south during the weekend, bringing increasingly hot air to the south while it stays cooler further north.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists near Moy should be cautious on the A9 due to a broken down vehicle affecting both directions. The A489 in Newtown is closed with diversions. There's a delay on the M18 northbound between junctions 3 and 4 due to a breakdown. Congestion is reported on the A50 eastbound in Uttoxeter and the A5 northbound in Hinckley. Additional congestion is on the M49 northbound between junctions with the M5 and M4. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast reports disruptions near Milton Keynes Central and between Lancaster and Preston. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 PM on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 AM.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
To all of you who voted for GB News to win at the Trick Awards for the 3rd year in a row.
So thank you so much for voting for us.
First, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come down the line.
say thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's because of you that we're proud to be the People's Channel. It's because of you that we are Britain's news channel.
Yes, we are very proud indeed to be GB News. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, some Labour MPs are saying that the time has come for regime change. Do they have a point? And get this, the Albanian PM has hit out at our government, saying that Britain is in a very dark place. This is Albania saying this. The cheek of it, ladies and gents. What do you make to that? And if there was an election tomorrow, Reform UK would apparently win 271 seats. Simple question, how worried about reform should the Labour Party be? And is it time to scrap the Employment Rights Bill? The Tories certainly think it is. Do you agree? All of that and lots more keeping me company tonight. My panel, Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Joe Phillips, journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live and give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Very good evening to you. The top story tonight at 6. Sir Keir Starmer has confirmed the government is in talks with Labour rebels over possible welfare concessions ahead of a key vote on Tuesday. The 126 Labour MPs are now backing an amendment to block the bill, which includes cuts to disability benefits and universal credit changes. The Prime Minister told MPs the goal is reform with Labour values and fairness, but warned the process will be, he says, tough going. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, is involved in those talks as pressure mounts to soften the £5 billion of cuts. The government still insists the vote will go ahead next week as planned. The NATO alliance is more lethal than ever. That is how the Prime Minister described it as world leaders commit to boosting defence spending. Sir Keir Starmer says the UK will spend 5% of GDP on national security by 2035 and rebuild Britain's nuclear deterrent. He told MPs today in the Commons that the plan will create 20,000 jobs and secure Britain's place on the global stage. The pledge follows new warnings about threats from Russia, China and from Iran. Well, here's what the Prime Minister had to say to MPs in the Commons earlier today.
It has kept this country safe for decades, but we recognise the grim reality today that the nuclear threat is growing. So we are renewing our existing at-sea capability, and we are going still further. I can tell the House today that we will procure at least 12 F-35A fast jets, and we will make them available to bear nuclear weapons if necessary. Mr. Speaker, this marks the return of the Royal Air Force to nuclear deterrence for the first time in 3 decades, the biggest strengthening of our deterrence posture in a generation, keeping our country safe while also supporting 20,000 jobs.
In other news tonight, 2 Met police officers have been sacked with immediate effect for the strip search of a 15-year-old black girl at school, a search deemed disproportionate, humiliating and carried out while she was on her period. Known as Child Q, she was wrongly suspected of carrying cannabis and searched without an appropriate adult present. A 3rd officer has received a final written warning. England's Children's Commissioner has called it one of the most disturbing cases in recent memory and a, quote, line in the sand. The force says it's deeply sorry and admits there were serious failings in both training and oversight. The pound has surged above $1.37 today, hitting its highest point in almost 4 years. The markets are reacting to reports that Donald Trump might replace the head of the US Federal Reserve sooner than expected. The president slammed Jerome Powell, calling him terrible and hinting at a change. Traders say they're worried Donald Trump could pick someone more aligned with his views, weakening the dollar. Back here at home, 3 people have been taken to hospital after a double-decker bus carrying sixth form students crashed into a river in Hampshire. That bus was transporting pupils from Barton Perivale Sixth Form College when it left the road earlier today. 14 others were treated at the scene, police though confirming all passengers have now been accounted for. 3 of those injured are being treated as high-priority cases.
Major porn sites will introduce strict age checks for UK users from the 25th of July. It's part of a new Ofcom rule aiming to stop children from accessing harmful content online. The robust age verification will include methods like credit card checks, open banking or facial age estimation. It's the first time the measures have been enforced in the UK, with Ofcom saying it's about protecting young users as a top priority. And in Venice, Jeff Bezos has been targeted yet again by protesters ahead of his star-studded wedding there. A mannequin earlier was set up near the Venice Canal, depicting the Amazon billionaire sat on a toilet in his wedding tuxedo. The stunt, called Pre-Wedding Nerves by the anonymous art collective Con Artists, features Bezos clutching a newspaper with fake US dollars spilling out of a box. It follows a string of protests against the multi-million-pound wedding, with activists blocking the original venue and even threatening to fill canals with inflatable crocodiles. The couple's wedding now has moved location, but demonstrations are set to continue. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with a full roundup at 7 o'clock. Now, though, it's over to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, and hello and good evening, everybody. How are you today? I am Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, I've got my panel, Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Joe Phillips, journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. You're both very welcome tonight. That made me laugh. There's sculptures. People have got a lot of time on their hands, haven't they?
Yeah, but I think anything like that which is done humorously is much better than something that is done to damage things. I mean, that is far more attractive. It's a much better front page of a newspaper, isn't it, than somebody smashing something up.
This is very true, but it's not much of a protest, though, is it?
Well, I don't know why there should be a protest. It's bringing a load of customers and a load of money into Venice, and it's adding a lot of fun or aggravation, depending on what your political view is, to society. So, you know, anyway, that's funny. I don't know how much else coming from the left is very funny.
Well, Kelvin and I were talking before we came on, Michelle, about which do we care least about, Jeff Bezos' wedding or Glastonbury?
And what was the answer?
Well, we never got that far, but we might do by the end of the programme.
Well, I've never been to Glastonbury, and I'm certainly not going to Jeff's wedding, although I have been to Venice.
You're the right age for Glastonbury. Did you see the average demographic was 45?
Well, that's not me, is it? Thank you.
You also
I'm
have
21.
been known for gate-crashing weddings.
I have. I gate-crashed at Kelvin Mackenzie's, and he was very welcoming to us. He offered us a place and a dinner. I said no. Obviously.
Yeah, he said that you said you had better things to do, didn't you?
I had to go, I think it was, in fact, I won't even tell you what it was that I had to do because I won't want to offend him. But anyway, look, shall I crack on with the show? Yes. If you want to join the conversation, ladies and gents, you can email me. I'm old-fashioned like that. gbviews@gbnews.com. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me wherever you're watching or listening. You're very welcome tonight. Now, so Keir Starmer, we've been talking about this welfare reform bill. Will it actually happen? Will it look the same way it currently does? What will happen next week? There's been increasing speculation now that the whole thing, quite frankly, could be pulled. Now people are suggesting they're more likely negotiations, compromises, those kind of things. Regime change, that was the front page of the Times newspaper today. Apparently that's what some Labour MPs are calling for. Kelvin Mackenzie, your thoughts on all of this?
Well, it's trying to throw out their chief of staff. He may be good, he may not be any good.
Morgan McSweeney.
Yeah, I don't think it matters very much. And so what they're really doing is attacking Starmer. This collection of MPs, Labour MPs, are not very of the left. They don't really believe in very much. And that's the reason why every so often they have a leader who doesn't believe in anything. And so every so often he makes a decision and they suddenly discover that they're going to believe in something. And so he is in a shocking position. We're only 1 year in now into this dreadful government. And we're already seeing that every time he says something of great import, pensioners, you've got to suffer. right, which is, by the way, a good idea, actually. I thought it was a splendid idea.
What, the fuel allowance
Yeah,
thing?
not giving them heating money. And also,
Yeah, that's
this
because
idea
you're minted, Kelvin, that's why. You're minted and you think a lot of the other pensioners are like you. That's why you probably thought it was a good idea.
I think the pensioners, actually, overall, are probably the richest demographic in society currently.
Oh,
and all the latest...
I can hear you now. You're shouting at him, I can hear you.
They can shout, the viewers can shout like they could do anything. Study the numbers. You will study the numbers, that they're in very, very good shape. And nobody wants to take them on. Nobody wants to take on the pensioners.
I studied my emails. A lot of you don't feel like that. A lot of you, some of you are pensioners, and you get in touch and tell me.
I'm not saying that everybody's
now.
OK.
Look at him backtracking.
I'm not backtracking. All I'm saying is, as a demographic, you're doing splendidly, OK? Actually, society is about what you can get out of it. Look at what the doctors are just about to do, right? They've decided we're actually going to kill you, actually, in order to get a pay rise. And the consultants have joined in too. So basically, the pensioners have done great, and they're probably going to have to suffer.
I put 10p in him today, can you tell? By the way, if there was any resident doctors, I think they're now called, they would say that they're not trying to kill people.
They are.
Joe.
And they will definitely kill people this time if the consultants go in as well.
Your thoughts, Joe?
Keir Starmer's got himself in a terrible pickle, and I think it is an indication of the lack of political nous within Downing Street. I mean, there's 122, 125, whatever it is a massive rebellion of these very new MPs, many of whom have very little experience and many of whom are sitting on very, very thin majorities. And I think what they've done, I mean, I completely get and accept that the welfare bill is unsustainable. It's got to come down somehow. But there are real concerns, genuine concerns, which will have obviously been taken to these MPs in their constituencies about people who have got very good reason to have this personal independence payment. And I think that's the nub of it. There are huge problems with the way that works, as there are with all benefits. But I think what Keir Starmer's done, and part of the problem, I think, is made worse because he's been abroad so much. You know, when you're away, and I think Tony Blair had it a little bit in his first term, he was away, and you know, and they're like grumpy children. You know, it's like they'll play up when they come back to, like, what about me? What about me?
That point you made about the narrow majorities, the most unbelievable stat that I have seen is that there are just over 200 Labour MPs whose majority is actually smaller than the number of people who are claiming PIP in their constituency.
Yeah.
So what an amazing thing that PIP is now, it's like the Muslims. You know, it is a thing in the voting voting firmament. What an extraordinary thing! And actually, whether it's going to be this government, it's clearly not going to be this government. They're going to be lumbered with this right to the end. Whoever comes in, I'm hoping it's, if Farage comes in, I want him to say, and I want Badenoch to say if it's her, or I want the Lib Dems to say, it'll never happen with the Lib Dems. I want them to say, we are slashing this budget and we are going to carve it out and there's going to be losers. Get over it. Get out there. Get working.
When it comes to PIP, one of my viewers, you emailed and you asked me not to mention your name, so I won't give your name, but you told me that you work in a benefit office. And you also told me that you feel that many people are lying in order to try and qualify for PIP. And one of the things that you said, it's not been discussed enough, that you're suggesting that the system is if you can get yourself eligible for PIP, then you essentially open up this kind of gateway for yourselves to then be able to get onto all manner of different things when it comes to advantages, benefits, whatever that was. And this lady was suggesting to me that what actually needs to be happening here is that PIP, essentially that link to PIP, from PIP to other things, that link is what needs to be cut.
Yeah, and well, I think that makes perfect sense, Michelle, that, you know, it might be something that you only need temporarily, for instance. But there is no doubt that there are people, you know, with conditions like multiple sclerosis or cystic fibrosis or anything where their health fluctuates quite a lot. And many of those will be able to work, but they might need a little bit of help sometimes.
But PIP just represents one part of a benefit system, which is completely out of control. I personally, I do not want to keep paying for the jobless at their price. Actually, the jobless payout is nothing compared to the sickness payout.
No, exactly.
Because people started working out, oh, we're not doing so well on the job list. What else can we have? Oh, let's claim we've got an ingrained toenail. Or, by the way, I've got a bad back, or something like that.
But that
it's a complete racket, and somebody... Who is the politician? Tell me, Michelle, you tell me. Who is the politician who is going to be able to say, I am going to do something about it? It's now not Starmer. We've got this, because he's already been beaten now, we've got this for another 4 years.
Let's see what happens. I mean, I think they will come back with some concessions on PIP, because that is the thing that's bothering people. I think genuinely they will stick to it, and they should stick to it for the reasons
do you honestly think now he's been beaten on two things which he knew were going to be controversial? One was pensions, and now we got the benefits issue. Do you think he fancies coming back on something else? I don't. He is a busted flush. And so the next question is, as the Labour MPs will be looking round now saying, because they want to be in work. They know they're not going to be in work if this dork takes them into the general election. So are they saying it's going to be Wes Streeting, or do we fancy actually killing ourselves at the election by going with Rayner? You know, but they will definitely be thinking, actually, Starmer is no longer a solution if you're a Labour MP looking for your future.
I think that's slightly overblown, Kelvin, which I know is completely out of character for you, because you do normally sit on the fence and you're quite a author.
Right.
I think, you know, they're restless, they're grumpy, they're sort of, you know, battered by their constituents, and as you rightly say, or we've both said, you know, they're sitting on very thin majorities. But I think if Starmer, but he does need to get a grip of talking to people.
He can't. He's finished. He's a busted flush.
It's the communication that's at fault.
It's over.
Graham, one of my viewers, he's got in touch. He says, Michelle, at the end of the day, I don't think Keir Starmer had any intention of trying to cut benefits. He just wanted to seem like he did. All he wants to do is tax, and then dish it out to the undeserving. Graham says, you just wait and see what the budget will contain, because ultimately you've got to find that money somewhere. Adrian says, Michelle, something has to be done about welfare. The key point that he wants to make is he's saying all of these assessments that keep taking place over the telephone and things like that are wrong. He says all assessments should essentially be face to face. What do you think? Leslie says, Michelle, I am 78 years of age and my pension is £540 per month. What planet is Kelvin on? I can tell you what, Leslie, that is $1 million question, and it's been asked and contemplated for years and years and years. We don't know what planet he's on, quite frankly, Leslie. I wish we did. Anyway, look, Reform UK. Would you want Nigel Farage as your next Prime Minister? A poll out today shows that if there was an election tomorrow, they would absolutely smash it. Your thoughts?
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Front page of the Times today says exercise proves the best therapy for keeping cancer at bay. Let's get the views of Tim Vincent.
It's quite an exciting trial, this. There's new findings every single day, isn't it? But I think this has been done over many years by a lot of people. And it actually says, you know, what you'd assume would be the case is that if you exercise, then it keeps your health in a better condition and will keep cancer from returning measurably, notably.
Yeah.
So I think it's 30-something%. And this is on people that have had cancer and then are encouraged to exercise. And there's many doctors over the years have said, you know, not quite sure. If you feel like you can exercise, then exercise. They're now saying you should exercise as soon as you feel good enough.
This
will make a big difference.
This makes me feel awful because I would have been pro-exercise, except I can't move. I'm in a wheelchair now, and I can't put on the right trainers, I can't change, I can't go to the showers, I can't do things. It's just I can't stand up. So there are a lot of people who are incapable of exercising, and therefore, rightly so, we see their increase of cancer growing.
Absolutely, and that's an issue that everybody's going to face, and you're obviously in a really difficult position. Any exercise, I think, is going to help, especially for these people that have had cancer once and can get out there. And it's very isolating as well, exercise.
So you're actually saying, if you're in redemption from cancer or whatever, you could keep it at bay by exercising.
It's actually better than a pill.
Yeah.
The results are actually better than a pill.
I think it's 36%, isn't it, for exercise?
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. Me, Michelle Dewberry, Calvin Mackenzie and Joe Phillips keeping you company till 7 now. We've just been speaking about the Labour Party, but if indeed then there was an election called tomorrow, what would be the outcome? Well, according to one YouGov poll, I've got to tell you as well, actually, I don't really think that this would surprise you very much at all, but it shows Reform UK would be predicted to be the largest party with 271 seats. Wowzers. What do you think to that, Calvin Mackenzie?
I think it's what you'd expect right now, to be honest.
But look at Labour as well, by the way, down 233 to 178.
Farage has turned out to be probably the most stunning politician of this age and possibly of any age, frankly, considering where he's come from. A man who had actually no seats, no votes, nothing 30 years ago, now potentially being our next Prime Minister. Extraordinary. Brought in Brexit. Extraordinary. All because he understands the way that people are thinking currently. They're very upset about life. They haven't got much money. The future doesn't look very bright for them. They feel concerned about things like the Channel, and they've got nobody who will speak for them. The Tories are a busted flush because they've had 14 years to do something about either what was happening in the Channel or financially for ordinary people. That hasn't worked. So this is a fantastic moment. And I wonder, so the most interesting thing I see in all this is not that the Tories are destroyed. I think they're done for. And I don't particularly blame Badenoch. I just think that it didn't matter who you put in there. You could put Mother Teresa in there and nobody would get elected. So I think the most interesting thing is that the Lib Dems retain their position, and they are going to start nibbling away at the Tories as well. So on the right of the Tory party, they go to Nigel, and on the left, I suspect they may end up in the Lib Dems. The Tories are absolutely done for. And for Nigel, what a phenomenal performance.
But, of course, he is helped by two very, very poor communicators in Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch. I mean, you know, without turning this into the Nigel Farage adulation show, because he gets quite enough of that on this channel, and he's got an hour of doing it himself after us. You know, he is a very good communicator, and we know that neither Starmer nor Badenoch are particularly good at that. I think you're absolutely right, Kelvin. I mean, I think what is happening is, you know, Labour is chasing reform. Well, that's not going to work. Labour doesn't know where it sits anymore. The Tories don't know where they sit.
When you say that, Joe, you're a working class Labour supporter.
Yeah.
I would have thought it was quite easy how to solve this. If Starmer managed to solve the issue of the Channel migration route, right, which is enormously upsetting for everybody, but especially those people who live in those communities, right? If he solved that, I reckon that's worth 3 or 4 points to him. And the truth is, he doesn't want to solve it. He's a human rights lawyer. He looks upon these people who are coming over as his voters for the future and his clients when he's no longer the Prime Minister.
Well, I think that's a bit silly, actually. But I think, you know, you're absolutely right. It is one of the biggest issues that previous governments have failed to deal with.
Yes, but it's his issue now.
It's his issue
now. Why
now.
is it? By the way, I absolutely hated what the Tory after we had five Prime Minister, 5 Tory Prime Minister. I hated the fact they wouldn't do anything about it, and I hate Starmer for not doing anything about it. And this is worth a lot to Farage himself. The reason he's up there is because we've got this issue being thrown at us every day, and not one single politician wants to do anything about it.
No, and nobody has managed to do anything about it for years and years and years. But I think, what we need to say is, first of all, this is an interesting poll, but we are 4 years away from a general election. If people begin to feel the benefits of, housing, infrastructure, the money that's been ploughed into places, in the north and the Midlands and other parts.
Do you think that they are going to feel that?
Well, they need
in the
to.
4 years. I'm not saying it's not a good thing.
No.
I'm not saying it's not a good thing. I'm just wondering, these things take years.
Yes,
when you have infrastructure projects, I mean, and we've had an infrastructure project called HS2.
Yeah.
What about that?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, we spent 100 million quid on
absolutely.
bats.
Absolute disaster. And that was under the last government, even though it was started by Tony Blair and Gordon Brown.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted it. Nobody in London wanted it. Nobody.
So I don't see this changing a lot. For instance, what about next May when we have the elections in April? You're going to find Labour are going to be in third place. Where does Starmer stand then?
But it's all very well saying, if nobody feels the benefit, then we might as well all give up. And actually, we don't know what reform does. We know what Nigel says, and he says it very effectively.
And that's his main advantage.
Yes.
It is a fantastic advantage.
And he is very rarely held to scrutiny on particular issues of policy.
Well, Labour weren't held to scrutiny. Were they?
Well,
Labour were not held to scrutiny.
Are you kidding? You don't think Nigel Farage is scrutinised? Are you having a laugh?
I don't think he gets the same level of scrutiny as other politicians.
Goodness gracious
I think he gets a lot of coverage, and I think, that's fine. And I think reform is an interesting story. But, the Lib Dems have got more MPs, more councillors. They might not be as charismatic, but they're not getting the same level of publicity.
Well, they don't want to deal with the Channel migration thing. They never talk.
No,
they don't want to talk about it.
Because let's talk about some other things just for a change.
No. It is the dominant.
Well, I don't.
For ordinary people, every single day, watching people coming over. All women and children, by the way. If you're a Labour cabinet minister, of course, there are only women and children. You see all these young men coming over from countries of which you know not. That, I think, is one of the reasons why they're doing well.
Did you see the story in your old paper yesterday, or today, in fact? That it's all set up by Putin to send people
it's one of them. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, gosh. What do you make to all of this, ladies and gents? Join the conversation in all the usual ways. David says Kelvin is a pensioner hater and is full of his of his own self-importance as well.
True.
Says David. Oh, that's a bit harsh. Lots of you getting in touch about this welfare stuff. And Pip in particular. I'll bring you into the conversation after the break. There's a lot we need to discuss: the employee rights bill, and also the Albanian PM and what he's had to say about this country. I'll see you in 2.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Lots of hot and sunny weather around the Mediterranean at the moment. Temperatures rising again in Spain. Quite a brisk breeze blowing at times over the Canaries. Some fine sunny weather here, a bit breezy too along the Portuguese coast, but a lot of sunshine across much of Iberia, through Italy and across the Greek islands as well. It'll turn a little cooler across the eastern Med as we head into the weekend, but temperatures continuing to rise in Spain and Portugal on Saturday and Sunday.
All Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again and welcome along to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Showers easing during the rest of today and then a period of time where skies clear before cloud and rain return, especially across northern and western parts of the country overnight. Now, we've had a number of features move through during the course of the day, bringing some showers, but brighter skies have followed, and we'll see some evening sunshine, certainly across the southern half of the UK. But further north, yeah, some sunshine at first, but soon enough, overnight, we'll see the cloud thicken across most parts, really, and outbreaks of rain moving through. Even the south could see some rain for a time, but by the end of the night, the rain is focused across western Scotland, northwest England, Northern Ireland, and with the cloud and the breeze picking up, temperatures staying at 12 to 14 Celsius typically. But there will be some early morning sunshine across southern parts of England into the Midlands and East Anglia. However, for Scotland, it is a dreary start to the day. A lot of clouds, some low cloud covering the hills and coasts to the west, and outbreaks of persistent rain over western hills. I think drier towards the east and northeast, but largely cloudy. Northern Ireland, likewise, a lot of cloud. Northwest England seeing the damp weather set in firmly during the morning. North Wales similar, but further south across Wales, brighter skies and mostly dry. 1 or 2 spots of rain possible for the southwest of England, but really it's a north-south split by the afternoon, with sunny spells breaking through across southern parts of the UK, albeit with 1 or 2 light showers here and there. Variable amounts of cloud, but thicker cloud and increasingly heavy rain pushing into northwestern parts of the UK, particularly for higher parts of western Scotland. Temperatures here held back as a result, but a warm day in the south, with temperatures reaching the mid or even high 20s in places. Then on Friday night, it's a warm night for many of us, with a lot of cloud cover, continuing to rain in western Scotland. High pressure then builds in from the south during the weekend, bringing increasingly hot air to the south while it stays cooler further north.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 is closed eastbound at junction 13 due to a police incident. Motorists are diverted onto the M8 northbound at junction 1, so please use alternative routes and allow extra time. In West Sussex, the A27 westbound between the A285 Chichester and the junction with the A286 faces congestion, with current delays of 10 minutes. The A14 eastbound near Bury St Edmunds has a road collision leading to lane closures. Expect improved conditions shortly. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast reports major disruption in the Milton Keynes central area, and Great Western Railway faces significant issues. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Hello everybody, I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, my panel, Kelvin McKenzie, he's coming in for some stick tonight, ladies and gents. He's the former editor of The Sun. And Joe Phillips, the journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. Lots of you have been getting in touch about this welfare situation. You really are quite upset, worried, frustrated. Many of you, one of you just been in touch with me telling me that you're in an appeals process as we speak because you had your PIP removed, and you're telling me how difficult it is at the moment. Someone else has just got in touch saying, I hate this notion, Michelle, that we're all basically lazy scroungers. You're saying, that's him, by the way, that's suggesting that for the avoidance of doubt. She's basically saying, I worked 14 hours, this is Shaz on Twitter, I worked 14 hours a day until I had an accident, which left me disabled. The whole thing was difficult and humiliating. Please stop suggesting that everyone is sponging off the state. I'll try telling him, but I don't know if it'll go in, Shaz. Anyway, look...
I'm not suggesting, by the way, that everybody is sponging off the state. What I'm saying is that there's a good portion who are sponging off the state.
Do you know what I think is quite tragic? I think there's so many people now taking the mick on things like PIP, things like ADHD. It's almost become fashionable to be labelled and diagnosed with ADHD. When you go to social media sites like TikTok and stuff like that, there's so-called influencers, I hate that phrase, but there's so-called influencers that will encourage you how to apply for all this PIP stuff and all the rest of it. So what's happening is you've got people... You know, they can do without this money, but they've been primed and trained and groomed into how to answer these questions in the best way to get all the points that they need. It's those kind of people that then affect the genuine claimants, like the people that I've just been referencing then, and I think actually that is quite a shame. Anyway, look, the Tories, we've been talking as well about the Workers' Rights Bill. The Tories have now pledged to scrap it, saying that the flagship reforms will, quote, grind our economy economy to a halt. What do you think to this, Kelvin McKenzie?
Well, I feel very sorry for anybody who's got a small business. If you've got a much bigger business, perhaps you can take the costs of malevolent employees onto your balance sheet. But if you're running a small business and then from day one you make a hiring, it turns out to be a dud hiring, right? You have a serious issue about how A, you get rid of them, and B, how much money that will be required to pay them off. And the worst one that I came across was the trade union one, where actually you're going to have to set up little offices within your office, if you're a certain size company, in order to facilitate one of your employees becoming a trade union official within the company. Who can afford that kind of stuff? And who wants trade unions sitting there all day trying to work out ways to be unhelpful to the running of the company? I worked in the print. And we had systems like that within. I worked for both at the Sun and the Daily Express. It was nightmarish. They were absolute bullies and pigs. And the greatest moment of my life was when Wapping happened and they all got thrown out of work. Anybody who has to work under those circumstances is an absolute disgrace. But anyway, going back to the main point is, if you're running a small business, I hesitate to think what it must be like. You know, you hire somebody on day one, they turn around on day two and they say, oh, I forgot to tell you, oh no, I got it in the post today, I'm pregnant, right? And suddenly, boom, that's somebody gone for a year or something. It is nightmarish.
The Shadow Business Secretary, Andrew Griffith, he has written a letter, an open letter. He says that he doesn't seek to oppose things just for the sake of it, but he's really concerned about this. He says he's concerned that British businesses are being sleepwalked into disaster. He lists various different reasons, really. He's pulling out shorter notice for strikes, lower thresholds before a business is forced to enter collective bargaining, a trade union right to roam in private business premises, and he goes on and on. He says it's awful, basically. Joe Phillips?
Well, you know, who cares what Andrew Griffith thinks? He's not going to be in government, and the Tories are all very well saying, oh, we're going to do this. Well, they're not going to be in a position to do anything. Nobody's listening to them, whether it's Andrew Griffith or Kemi Badenoch. So it's a bit of an irrelevance, frankly. Now, you know, they didn't do anything. If you remember, Kemi Badenoch thought that maternity rights were far too generous. I am a great fan of trade unions. They have made this country safer. They've made employment safer. They have improved things for millions and millions and millions of people who can work safely and can also, you know, manage families and sickness and things. For all the reasons that we've just talked about, you know, actually, a good employer and a good trade union can help somebody manage a return to work after an accident, for instance. They do a lot on health and safety. So, actually, I think the unions are a really good thing.
Have you ever worked inside a commercial company where
Kelvin,
trade unions...
I was in Fleet Street when you were. I know what it was like.
Well, how bad... what kind of advert was that with trade unions?
That was a long time ago.
Why are you pro that?
And they have changed that now.
Have they?
Yes, they have.
Will you wait until you get Angela Rayner for... After all, this is part of a, quote, 10-year plan. Actually, it's probably a 10-minute plan under
Kelvin,
current
I wrote
Labour.
a book called Why Join a Trade Union. You could read it, actually.
No, I've got better things to do in my life, Joe, but it's very kind of you
You could give him a signed
What happened?
copy.
How many did it sell? 4?
Oh, probably. I don't know. Maybe not as many.
There you go. We've squared away a Christmas present now. You could get a signed copy of Why Join a Trade Union.
You could have Why Vote. You could have
I tell you
double
what,
one.
the unsigned ones will be the rare ones.
Thank you very much.
He says, the Shadow Business Secretary, he says that this will cost British businesses £5 billion a year, and he goes on to say that 50,000 jobs could be impacted by this as well. What I found really interesting...
I would say that I think for small businesses... who are crippled enough as it is at the moment with, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, pubs, hospitality, hairdressers, small shops, those sort of things. I think it's really tough for them at the moment. And part of that is the increase in national insurance employers. But it's also business rates, it's all of those sort of things. And I think anything that makes people scared of hiring somebody is not going to be good. The other problem, of course, I think, is that you've then got people working, cash in hand, which isn't good for the economy and isn't good for communities either. But I think, as Kelvin said, bigger companies can absorb some of this because they've got...
When you say absorb it, I'm not saying absorb it. They just pass it on as costs to the customer, i.e. the public.
Yeah, but look at...
So I take the view that we don't need trade unions now. We used to need them, but now, with all the laws which currently exist, right, you don't need anybody. Employment. Imagine what the queue looks like out of lawyers. The only people that love this are lawyers. The queue for employment tribunals. Can you imagine how long there'll be people lying their heads off?
They're not all
but you're in quite a great position now. You've worked hard. You've achieved financial success and stuff like that.
Well,
when I think
hold on a second. It's been like that.
No, but when I think of a couple of my brothers, I'm thinking of two of them in particular. They work in factories. One of them, my littlest brother, he was a factory labourer. The trade unions were very helpful for him. I won't mention which company it is because I don't have a right to reply from them, but there was some things going on that I certainly don't think should have been going on. And actually, my little brother, just as like a labourer, he wasn't going to get anywhere. The collective notion of the trade union, it really was beneficial, not just to him, but to his colleagues.
Okay, do you think running the railways run by those collection of creeps, right? Do you think the fact that they use us as the public in order to get their pay rises, and the doctors, the way that they say, right, we are going on strike, and if your old mum dies, I'm afraid that doesn't matter. I need 0.5%. You're a train driver, and you simply say, we're not going to allow anybody to go all over the country. These trade unions operating together, using the public as a battering ram, is a disgrace.
Well, you'll have strong opinions on that at home. I'm absolutely sure you've also got strong opinions on the Albanian PM piping up and saying that the UK is, quote, in a dark place. Your thoughts?
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello there, this is Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, Kelvin McKenzie and Joe Phillips. Gordon has just got in touch saying clearly Michelle Dewberry has absolutely no idea of the effects of ADHD. I can only hope that anyone in her close family never suffers from this disease. It is an absolute nightmare for the family, not just the sufferer. Well, I'll have you know, Gordon, I have expansive knowledge and experience of ADHD in my private life. Thank you very much. I shall not bore you with all the details, but you know what? I've got my view. You can disagree with it, and that is the nature of democracy, isn't it? And debate programmes. We can agree to disagree. Look, I can tell you now that there is not a lot of love coming through. We started the programme talking about the Labour Party. There's not, unless you're kind of hiding and you're not getting in touch with me, there is not many people out there at the moment that think that actually things are going swimmingly for the Labour Party. Many of you are suggesting that actually you think a vote of no confidence or an early election might be on the cards. Keep your thoughts coming in. But look, the Albanian Prime Minister, he's been speaking out. It's one of his first interviews since re-election. He's suggesting that the UK, I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's quite a serious topic, but he suggested that the UK is in a very dark place. He's talking about public discourse and things like the want and desire for return hubs. He says that since Brexit, public discourse, totally unacceptable, totally ridiculous, totally shameful things have become normalised. Well, if I was the Albanian Prime Minister, I'd probably be keeping my head down, because how many Albanians have tried to escape from Albania and actually come to the UK? Many thousands of them, by the way, we've had to send back. So I'm not quite sure what he's on about, but anyway, well, Kelvin McKenzie.
He makes a ludicrous point, which is that the UK has spent quite a lot of time now and is going through it under Labour and tried it under the Tories to, quote, look for places to dump immigrants. Actually, to dump illegal immigrants is actually what we're trying to do. And actually, had the Labour government not ditched Rwanda and instead replaced it with a fantastic idea, which is called Smash the Gangs, which has now been totally destroyed by the head of Border Force, who said that there's no possibility of smashing the gangs. So we are trying to dump illegal immigrants, and I don't know what he's complaining about. After all, his country over here supplies half the drugs that we consume and actually is involved in much of the sex trafficking. So I'll be very grateful if the Albanians wouldn't go back to Albania and leave us alone.
Well, also, what I found interesting, I'm not sure why he's picking on plans for return hubs and third country and all the rest of it, because they actually have a deal with Italy. You might remember that one, to do kind of processing and things like that. So it's all very odd. But anyway, he says 80% of the things that are said or written are just appalling in this country post-Brexit.
I agree with him, actually, post-Brexit, and he does make the point. He says...
Why do you agree with that?
Because Brexit has not done us
But his exact quote is 80% of the things that are said or are written or accepted as normal part of the discourse in today's Britain are things that before Brexit would have been totally unacceptable, totally ridiculous and totally shameful. How can you agree with that? That's nonsense.
Well, I can agree with it.
Yeah, but how? What part do you agree with?
Because I think we have become much more divided. I think we've become much more vile in our comments. I think, you know, the social media has gone absolutely through the roof, which is not because of Brexit, admittedly. But I think it caused such division between Remainers and Leavers that you can't actually have a sensible conversation with anybody, even in your own family. The people who voted for Leave refuse to admit that it has not worked, and that isn't not to say that they weren't perfectly entitled to their view and to vote for the reasons that they thought they were voting. But they were lied to by Boris Johnson. There was no plan, and it has caused huge harm to the economy. We've seen increase in immigrants, as Kelvin keeps going on about that have gone up through the roof since Brexit. And we've seen people who were working here, you know, whether they were Romanian plasterers or Greek nurses or whatever, they all went home, didn't feel welcome here. And we're bringing in people to fill those gaps in our own trades and professions because the people who wanted Brexit had no plan to train up anybody else to do the jobs that other people were doing.
Kelvin Mackenzie, is she fair in what she's saying?
I think that we've just taken your last point about that there have been no benefits from Brexit. Of course, we're living through one right now, which, of course, is that our steel and various other tariffs would be off the dial were we in the unfortunate position of currently sitting in Brussels. So there has been a benefit. It is a surprise benefit. I totally accept that Brexit has not been the triumph that I voted for. And actually, if Nigel were here, actually, he'd agree with you. He's in favour of Brexit. It just hasn't had the benefit. We may have been lied to. Boris was a good advocate for change, but a poor advocate for doing anything about it.
And he was a complete liar, Kelvin.
Well, he was hopeless as a Prime Minister, that's for sure. And the idea that if Badenoch were to go, then he was going to take the place, that is for the birds, that. But overall, coming back to this point, this guy has got a view. Actually, I don't know whether he knows what his own people are like, but I could do with a lot of them not being over here right now carrying out their criminal activities.
Well, there you go. You've got very divided opinions on that one at home. And also, you've really got divided opinions on this welfare situation. It's got many of you very, very emotional. You don't like the suggestion that you might be swinging the lead. You're fiercely defending yourselves against that. But the other side of the fence, I've got so many of you getting in touch with me, telling me stories about friends, family members, neighbours, that you're telling me in detail. Thank you for all your stories. You're sharing with me in detail people and examples of you're saying they're getting all of this money and they absolutely shouldn't be.
Read them out.
Oh, well, no, because...
read one of them.
No,
That'd be fantastic.
I'm quite responsible in this way, but lots of you, some of you are even telling me stories about some of your family members. Yeah. That's the kind of thing you would do. I think that's the kind of thing that you would do, Kelvin.
If I were the presenter here, I would be reading out stories told by somebody's brother, talking about their other brother, about what the tricks are. Because
you'd name them.
Yeah. How are we ever going to deal with it until we know the reality of what's going on in our own nation?
Well, there you go. Paul, he's been in touch and said, Michelle, thank you for your defence of unions. He says they play an important role helping ordinary, hard working. There has to be some counterweight to large corporations having unrestricted and unrestrained power. What I would say there, Paul, is yes, of course, unions have helped people like my brother, and there'll be millions and millions of other people like him. But there has got to be a balance. You can't have situations where industry is being brought to its knees based on unrealistic demands from unions who, quite frankly, often just want things to remain exactly as they were, because a key part of industry, you've got to evolve, you've got to be entrepreneurial, you've got to be able to move forward.
We want to have a look at the railway business. You go any night to Waterloo, nightmare. Joe, nightmare at Victoria. Honestly, the trade union movement have got the management there and actually the customers like that.
I don't think
and
it's
we
the
have
nightmarish.
We have nightmarish times, and it's entirely connected with the fact we have to either overpay train drivers to do work which a 2-year-old could do, paying them $100,000 a year. It's ridiculous.
So many of you getting in touch as well about ADHD.
Yeah.
So many of you. Who's this, Danny? You're saying, Michelle, I've waited 2 years to get assessed for ADHD. I finally got a diagnosis 5 years ago. I've never claimed any benefits, just the medication. That's what I wanted. You're saying the difference in me through medication is unbelievable. I'm gutted it wasn't available in my school years. But I have got to say, the blaggers make the rest of us look bad, and it totally, she says, winds me up.
Well, I think that is the nub of it, isn't it? That people who are genuine, it's a bit like the winter fuel allowance. You know, there are pensioners who really need it, who were getting it anyway and would have carried on getting it, and the people like, you know, you and me, who don't need it.
Well, you're not a pensioner, Jo, are you?
Of course I am.
How are you?
Audrey says, I've been a recipient of PIP for a very long time now, and it's helped me be able to work. There's a misconception that people just take PIP and they don't go to work. Audrey is saying, absolutely, we do.
I do not believe you should be receiving PIP and working full-time. I just don't.
Why?
And what you should be able to do is get your full-time money. Actually, you've been registered for PIP, and if, for instance, you needed help, i.e. you lost that job, then you could then go and claim it. But to claim them side by side is just ridiculous.
Ron, he's been in touch and said the reason there's national division, Michelle, is because governments willfully ignore the voting and the impressions and the ideas and the wants of the normal people. Dennis says, I'm absolutely fuming with what Jo is saying. We got Briner, not Brexit. Oh, you go on and on. You're not happy. Luckily for you, though, it's the end of the show. Thanks, panel. Thanks to you at home. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers. Sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hot and sunny weather is on the way for many by the end of the weekend, but for the next 24 hours it's going to be very changeable, very mixed across the country, with thicker cloud returning to many northern and western parts overnight and outbreaks of rain along with tighter isobars. That means a freshening breeze. We do start with some clear spells during the evening, but quite quickly the thicker cloud rolls in from the west and we're going to see dreary conditions by dawn, especially towards the northwest, with outbreaks of rain for Western Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northwest England, North Wales. After some rain moves through earlier in the night, it's drying up by this stage across southern parts of the UK. Even some sunshine first thing through southern England, parts of the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast. But thick cloud further north and low cloud at that, so it's going to be covering some of these hills in Western Scotland, misty conditions around the coast. Drizzly outbreaks of rain, especially for central and western Scotland into northwest England, Northern Ireland. That rain will be on and off, but it will be persistent over some of the hills and mountains, likewise for North Wales, but drier for South Wales, just one or two light showers. Equally, a few spots of rain, perhaps over Dartmoor, but mostly dry towards the southwest. And the best of the sunshine during the morning will be through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, where it will feel warm and increasingly humid once again, with the wind coming from the southwest. And that wind will be picking up strength across northern parts of the UK, bringing more persistent and heavier rain into Western Scotland, northwest England by the end of the afternoon, making it feel on the cool side, but temperatures up to 27 or 28 Celsius, where we see the sunshine in the southeast. That leads us on to a muggy night for sleeping and a grey start to the weekend for many of us. Now, the areas of rain